Today, we are not just selling grain, we are shaping the future of Burkina Faso. This $14 billion partnership with India proves that our land can feed the world while securing prosperity for our people. As dawn broke over Asia and the sun began to rise, global markets were jolted awake by a single headline that reverberated across trading floors from Mumbai to Chicago to London. Traders, sipping their morning coffee and expecting a routine day, were caught off guard by shocking news. Burkina Faso, a small landlocked nation in West Africa, had signed a monumental $14 billion deal with India to export 20 million metric tons of maize and sorghum over the next decade. The announcement, delivered in a simple three-paragraph statement with no fanfare, sent shockwaves through commodity markets. Grain prices spiked, futures contracts for maize and sorghum surged, and analysts scrambled to understand the implications of this unexpected partnership. For many, Burkina Faso had never been on the radar as a major player in global agriculture. Meanwhile, India, already a grain powerhouse, seemed an unlikely beer. The question on everyone's lips was simple: why this deal and why now? The financial world reacted instantly. Within minutes, commodity exchanges buzzed with nervous energy as traders recalibrated positions. Agricultural experts filled television studios, some hailing the agreement as a historic shift, others calling it a game-changer for global food security. In South America and Eastern Europe, regions like Argentina, Brazil, and Ukraine that have long dominated grain exports to Asia, the news triggered alarm. Burkina Faso, once known mostly for gold, cotton, and political instability, had suddenly claimed a share of their market. The simplicity of the announcement, 20 million tons, $14 billion, 10 years, belied its immense impact. In just a few words, it carried the weight of a new global reality, one where a landlocked African nation could reshape the future of food trade. At its core, this deal was more than just a transaction. It was a declaration of transformation. It was a strategic maneuver designed to address the vulnerabilities of both nations. For India, the deal was about securing food stability in a country where agriculture depends heavily on the unpredictable monsoon. Strong rains bring bumper harvests, but weak monsoons trigger shortages, driving up prices and straining supplies. By partnering with Burkina Faso, India built a safety net, diversifying its grain sources and reducing the risks of climate volatility. For Burkina Faso, the agreement was nothing short of transformative. Long overshadowed by its mineral wealth and textile exports, the nation finally had the chance to showcase its agricultural potential. It was a bold statement to the world. Burkina Faso was no longer a footnote in global trade, but an emerging power capable of feeding millions. This partnership, however, did not emerge overnight. Its roots stretched back 3 years to quiet conversations at international trade and food security forums. While other leaders issued grand promises, Burkina Faso's representatives spoke modestly, highlighting their nation's untapped agricultural capacity. Indian officials, well aware of the dangers of depending on only a few global suppliers in an era of erratic weather, listened closely. Those early talks were not about money, they were about trust. Indian trade envoys traveled deep into Burkina Faso's Central Plains, inspecting fields, storage silos, and farming practices. They asked pointed questions, testing whether this small West African nation could truly deliver on its promise. Could Burkina Faso scale up production? Could it ensure consistent quality? Could it guarantee a steady supply for a full decade? Step by step, confidence grew, laying the foundation for a deal that would reshape the future of both nations. One of the biggest hurdles was Burkina Faso's landlocked geography. Exporting millions of tons of grain to India meant navigating complex logistics, crossing borders, reaching coastal ports in neighboring countries, and shipping across oceans. Many skeptics doubted the feasibility of moving such huge volumes through underdeveloped infrastructure, yet what seemed like a crippling weakness became a spark for innovation. India and Burkina Faso agreed to co-invest in transformative infrastructure projects upgrading railways, building new road networks, and expanding port storage facilities in nearby coastal states. What once looked like an impossible barrier was turned into a platform for long-term growth. India's motivation was rooted in the realities of its agricultural system. Despite producing hundreds of millions of tons of rice, wheat, maize, and sorghum each year, the country struggles with a boom and bust cycle. Bumper harvests often overwhelm storage facilities, leading to waste, while weak monsoons cause shortages and force costly imports. By partnering with Burkina Faso, India secured access to a climate-diverse grain supply. West Africa's rainfall patterns differ from India's, meaning a poor monsoon in India might not affect Burkina Faso's harvests. This climatic divergence works like a natural insurance policy, helping India stabilize its food supply and avoid simultaneous shortages. Choosing Burkina Faso over established exporters like Brazil or Ukraine was no accident. India offered more than just payment, it promised investment. New silos, irrigation systems, and modern farming techniques were all part of the deal. This approach would not only secure supply for India, but also strengthen Burkina Faso's agricultural foundation for the long term. Unlike global powers that often tie trade to political or military influence, India positioned itself as a partner, not a hegemon. The agreement also drew strength from a decade of smaller trade ties between the two countries in textiles, pharmaceuticals, and machinery that had already built mutual trust. For Burkina Faso, choosing India was a declaration of autonomy, a signal that it intended to engage with the world on its own terms. Politically, the deal carried weight for both sides. For India, it was an opportunity to assert leadership in Africa, where China and Middle Eastern nations have been steadily expanding their influence in agricultural trade. By securing this $14 billion agreement, India sent a clear message. It was ready to be a reliable partner for Africa's future. For Burkina Faso, the partnership was a bold step toward redefining its global image. The ripple effects were immediate. Neighboring West African countries began exploring their own agricultural potential. The logic was simple. If a landlocked nation could secure a $14 billion deal, what could others achieve with fertile land, stronger infrastructure, and the right partnerships? The agreement sparked a regional conversation about transforming Africa into a global agricultural hub, but not everyone welcomed the news. In South America and Eastern Europe, major exporters saw Burkina Faso's entry as a direct threat to their market share. Analysts warned of possible price wars, as established players might slash costs to stay competitive. Yet, many economists argued that the deal could actually stabilize global markets by diversifying supply sources, spreading production more evenly across nations would reduce reliance on just a few dominant exporters, providing a buffer against climate shocks, conflicts, or trade disputes. In short, a more resilient global food system could emerge. Inside Burkina Faso, another pressing concern surfaced. Would exporting such vast quantities of grain undermine domestic food security? The government quickly moved to address this. A fixed percentage of national grain production was reserved exclusively for local consumption, untouchable by export contracts. Revenue from the deal would also subsidize food prices at home and fund irrigation projects to expand overall output. This careful balancing act aimed to ensure global trade success without sacrificing the needs of Burkina Faso's own people. Beyond households, the deal also had major implications for India's booming dairy and poultry sectors, which rely heavily on sorghum for animal feed. By securing a steady and cost-effective supply from Burkina Faso, India could stabilize production costs, supporting industries that employ millions while keeping prices for milk, eggs, and meat stable for its population. This dual focus on human and animal food security highlighted the broader economic significance of the agreement. It wasn't just about trade, it was about safeguarding industries, jobs, and food systems on both sides. Climate strategy was another key dimension. India's monsoon-dependent agriculture has grown increasingly vulnerable to climate change, with floods and droughts disrupting harvests year after year. Burkina Faso, however, operates under a distinct rainfall pattern. This difference means that poor harvests in one region are less likely to coincide with shortages in the other. By leveraging climate diversity, the two nations created a natural insurance policy enhancing resilience and offering a model for how countries can navigate the uncertainties of a warming world.